You're listening to the BBC World Service Space Podcast. We're going to tell you how to live, work, play and fight at the final frontier, as well as saluting some of history's space pioneers. Happy listening.
You're listening to the BBC World Service. This is Owen Bennett-Jones with NewsHour Extra. And the exploration of space hasn't followed a path of steady, smooth progression. The last time there was a man on the moon, 1972. The American Space Shuttle program made its final flight in 2011. The International Space Station is due to close down in 2024, and the US and Russia currently have no concrete plans to replace it. US space spending has gone down. The Russian program has had its budget slashed. On the other hand, there is lots going on. There are plans for a Chinese space station. The Indians are leading the way in budget space exploration. Their Mars probe, it is said, cost less than the movie Gravity. Iran is talking about a manned space flight by 2020, and the Russians do have a big plan for a spaceport, albeit on Earth. So we're going to talk about the future of space, and we'll divide it into two rough halves. The first half of this programme will be sort of the current technology and the financing, where it's leading us in, let's say, the next 50 years or so. So the known unknowns in Rumsfeld language. And then the second half, the more unknown unknowns, more speculative. And we've got a fantastic panel. We've got Professor Martin Rees. He is a lord, but I'm not allowed to say that. He says I shouldn't mention that. He's an Astronomer Royal since 1995, the Astronomer Royal since 1995, and Emeritus Professor of Cosmology and Astrophysics at the University of Cambridge. We've got Dr. Jill Stewart, who specialises in space politics at the London School of Economics and is the editor of the journal Space Policy. We have Professor Monica Grady, Professor of Planetary and Space Science at the Open University, and Dr. David Parker, Chief Executive of the UK Space Agency. So, you've all got a huge amount of knowledge and you're going to help us understand this. And let me just start by asking you, perhaps Professor Martin Rees, you could begin us. The moon, the Mars, moon and Mars, when are we going to get people back on the moon and Mars?
It depends how we prioritise manned spaceflight compared to unmanned, because the Apollo program, which landed Neil Armstrong and some later astronauts on the moon, was motivated not by science, of course, but by superpower rivalry to beat the Russians. And had the momentum been maintained after Apollo, there would have been people on Mars long before today. But of course, then the program was scaled back, and there have been people in low orbit, in the space station, and other ways. But what's gone ahead very fast is the unmanned program. We depend on space for our everyday lives, for communication, environmental monitoring, and GPS and sat-nav. And unmanned space probes have been to the planet, sending back wonderful pictures of all the planets and right out to Pluto. And they've also allowed astronomers like myself to put telescopes up in space to get a clearer view of the wider universe. So the case for sending people perhaps got weaker because we can do so much more without them now.
Yeah, Monica Grady, do you think it's like that it's more likely to be robots than people?
Certainly, before people go, robots have to go. There's no doubt about that at all. But it depends why the people want to go, why you're sending them, or why they're choosing to go. I mean, the first astronauts, as Martin said, were sent up because of politics. Now we've got people who actually want to go and start living on the moon, eventually living on Mars, and doing it for excitement and, you know, just because it's there, sort of thing.